Catherine McLean. I'm founder and CEO of Dylan Green. And today I have with me Bea Huey Yeh. She's the founder of The Power of We. And she's based in the Bay Area. Thanks for joining me, Bea.
Thanks so much for having me, Catherine.
So Bea, tell us a little bit about yourself and The Power of We.
Sure. So I'm a classic millennial in the sense that I left undergrad with this huge mission to make a positive impact on the world. And I saw energy as foundational to that mission because it's such a platform that touches so many different social impact topics, right? Access to healthcare, to education, helping with gender equity issues, and of course, with the big systemic climate crisis. So in a way, it allowed me to sort of defer my decision of what I wanted to do with my life and how I could make that a really meaningful career and journey. And what I realized is that I didn't just want to start an energy career. I wanted to tackle the climate change crisis in some of the hardest places first, because that felt like a way to create the most scalable and meaningful impact. And so that led me to a career in some big energy players like the oil and gas space, like in energy service companies, and sort of a really institutionalized model where I wanted to see how we could connect that back to social impact. And then most recently at ENGIE, which is a global utility and independent power producer, and figuring out how the centralized utility model could really enable a decarbonized transition to a more sustainable future. And so through all of that, I took a step back and saw a huge gap in what the energy industry could and should do to help with not just climate change, but also climate justice and social justice. Yep. And that led to the creation of The Power of We, which is a social impact consultancy that brings an intersectional lens to these topics, meaning how do we first eradicate apathy on these tough topics, but second, really turn that care into action around issues that really center people and start to unpack the dimensions of our identities, whether they're marginalized or not, and how we can create social change that's positive from a very intersectional way.
Can you provide an example of an organization within clean energy that you think truly embodies what you call the triple bottom line? Can you tell us what the triple bottom line is?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of companies, a lot of listeners are in the corporate world, and we always talk about the bottom line, which is shareholder value, right? Yeah. How, tell me how much money we're making, what's the profit, what's the ROI on this? That's the language of business. And the triple bottom line is introducing other dimensions that we should be measuring, whether they're, negative externalities when we produce a product, like what is the effect on the environment, pollution, on the community. And so it boils down into, what does this mean for people? What does this mean for the planet? And of course, what does this mean for profit?
Yep.
And that's the triple bottom line, where you can really get a holistic sense of what is the impact of my company, my organization on these three dimensions, rather than only prioritizing profit. And recently, last year, the Business Roundtable basically said they embraced this idea by shifting from it's all about shareholder value to it's all about stakeholder value, meaning that, the planet is a stakeholder. Yep. The clients that we serve and the communities that we operate in are stakeholders. Our suppliers in our supply chain and our partners in different organizations are stakeholders. So it just becomes a lot more holistic when you're talking about the triple bottom line. So examples of organizations that do this well, and it's important to really think about not just what companies are saying, right? That's why greenwashing and rainbow washing with LGBT rights and that community, that's happened because companies put up logos with a rainbow in the month of June, and they post black squares and say Black Lives Matter. But when you dig deeper and you think about what beyond your statement are you doing as a company to
Yep.
support these causes and the employees that care about these causes?
Mm-hmm.
That's where it becomes really apparent, is this authentic or not?
Mm-hmm.
And the way to figure out which companies are doing this well is to analyze their actions and the outcomes and the impact that they're making around these different causes. So, Patagonia, Unilever, a lot of these big enterprises in sort of the consumer or business to consumer space, they're kind of iconic examples where, for example, Patagonia has programs where you refurbish your old clothes. You can bring them back in, they'll pay you for them, or they'll repair them and give them back to you, or donate them. And on Black Friday, which is a big push for consumerism, they famously donated 100% of their proceeds back to causes around environmental sustainability and conservation. Right, because they're recognizing that at the core of their business, it goes against sustainability, right? Because you're buying and consuming more. And I think addressing that in a very real manner, that the core business is actually not sustainable, is tough to do, but it shows that it's an authentic investment in the cause around sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
So your original question of like which clean energy company is doing this well, I really had to think about that, and it sort of validated my viewpoint that our industry is way behind.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're already doing feel-good work, right? We're very mission-oriented, we're very mission-driven because we're trying to save the planet.
Right.
What happens is that, and this was a reflection for me personally in my career, is that you get so tied up in that cause that you forget about the other parts of that triple bottom line, right? People, like you're thinking about planet, you're necessitated to think about profit, but then people, which people are we centering and solving for? And is it sort of this majority of white, heteronormative, able-bodied, middle upper class, people that we create climate solutions for? Or is it Black, Indigenous, people of color, frontline communities that live, that are dealing with coastal erosion, that are dealing with huge climate change effects when they have the least to do with the reason we are in this place to begin with? And so I think lots of clean energy companies get triple bottom line. I think that they are doing good work in terms of the environment, but a lot of them, most of them, are missing this intersectional part of racial and social justice. And I think there's a huge opportunity for people and companies in clean energy to take that cause up now.